There was a great group of families in the neighborhood, and at that time, Lakewood Balmoral was in pretty good shape. It, it was starting to get a little rough around the edges. What was going on the periphery at that time, Winthrop and Kenmore were not the streets that they are today. There were some street gangs active in the area, local, which was kind of scary. I mean, that's when Lakewood Balmoral formed. The first meeting of what became the Lakewood Balmoral Residents Council was in our living room. Leroy and I decided that neighborhood organizing was a good idea and encouraged people to start a community organization there. They were ready, and there may have even been earlier organizations. At that time, the Edgewater Community Council was in existence, although it wasn't as effective. People didn't really know. What occurred to me very strongly at that point was you can have the community power, but unless you've got political power that cooperates with that community, you don't gain as much. Really, the political power, I thought, was key to developing the kind of a community that we wanted to see this become. Marion Bellini had come over to borrow some sugar. It was I think it was near Thanksgiving. And we were sitting in the kitchen and talking about it, and I think Leroy called. He suggested one of us think about running. Well, at that time I had 6 kids, and my youngest was a 2-year-old. Marion had 5, and her youngest was about 5. So she said, "Well, why don't you run?" And I can't. My kids are too little. And I said, "Why don't you?" And she said, "All right, I will." So we began to put together a political organization. We began to be able to exert some influence on what was going on. When Marion was alderman, it was council wars, and there was a lot of intrigue and a lot of challenges during that time, and there were some really, really tough issues. I mean, we went through a lot, and at that time I was on staff part-time, and planning and development was one of the areas I worked in. And very hard, because when the community is split on something and emotions run very, very high when some of these issues come up, it's difficult to steer through. In a way, it was a wonderful experience, not just because of what you can accomplish, but it does a lot for the individual. As I said, you not only do a lot of good, but you also do a lot of good for yourself.